Hey, everybody, welcome back to this live episode of Think About Your Why with Maggie Cook and myself, talking to Jim Niedzinski, who's a managing partner and founder of his company, Motive Wealth Advisors. Maggie is an international inspirational speaker who basically made the best house in the world, sold it, sold it for 200 plus million to Campbell. So, we've known each other for a long time, and Maggie, I think we all kind of met at the same time when we heard you speak many years ago.
Okay.
And so this is kind of like Maggie, you and I kind of talking about having a series about thinking about your why, and I thought Jim would be a great first guest because he does think a lot about his why, and he can really kind of tap into the soul of what he is doing with purpose. And so, Jim, welcome. Thanks for joining Maggie and I tonight. And so a lot of times I think people are confused about, how do they find their why? So let's start there. How did you find your why?
Thank you. Slowly is the answer.
Yeah.
In bits and pieces. I actually have some documents from over 20 years ago where I began chipping away at that. Where I started to find clarity is the idea of a Venn diagram of a couple different factors. And then I later found out that that concept exists of taking these handful of factors and finding the intersection of them. And there's a Japanese concept, ikigai, and you can search this, and there's a ton of information on it, but it was how I was thinking of things. I thought it was original, but it wasn't. Like most things, there's an ancient version of it that's more brilliant than mine. But I could share with you, I'll pause for a moment, but there were 4 elements that I, over time, began to have clarity about myself. And as I had clarity about those, purpose began to emerge from them.
I interviewed a guy who wrote a whole book, and then after he wrote the book, realized that that's what it was.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So the first of the 4 pieces for me that I wrote down, and actually, I didn't think about this. I still carry in my pocket, I'm a little weird, I carry a little piece of paper where I've written these down, and I've refined it over the years. I don't carry it every day, maybe a handful of times a week, but I've written these down, and the first area is, for clarity for me, was what I most deeply believe. I mean, like, unarguable, I believe this to be true about me and the world and the universe. That was number 1. I call those the principles. What are my core principles? Now, the second one is, what am I really excited about, passionate about? What do I enjoy the most? So I call those my passions. So I have my principles, passions, and then the third is, what am I uniquely good at? What am I best at? Out of all the things I can do, what do I do really well? I call those my powers. So I've got principles, passions, and powers. And then the fourth is why I believe I exist. And that's pretty esoteric, but why do I think I actually exist? And that would be my purpose. So the intersection of these 4 things, what I really believe and what I'm passionate about and what I'm good at, that intersection ends up, for me, bringing clarity to purpose. But if for those people who aren't on this journey, to just start with purpose is too overwhelming. I have found pursuing those others can start to narrow down the options, and purpose gets birthed out of it. Does any of that resonate with either of the 2 of you? Does that, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think, I would like to know more about your backstory. Like, where did you start? I think that's a great place, because we all start somewhere. Yeah. And we all think we're going the right direction. But the big question is it the right direction? So what's your backstory?
Yeah, that's wisdom, Maggie. I got to the top of the ladder and realized it was leaned against the wrong wall type of concept. Yeah, I grew up the last of 6 kids on a hobby farm. My parents do everything with excellence, and I inherited that genetically, but also by watching them. And that perhaps unfiltered led me potentially in the wrong direction of working too hard at too many things and realizing that just because I'm good at something or work hard at something and quote unquote achieve it, that's meaningful or valuable or is fulfilling. So part of my discovery was to slow down, to realize that the pursuit of perfection is a lie and isn't very happy. I have on my side of my chair there behind me to read some more of is Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, to get more in touch with that truth. So that background led me to pursue doing the best I could in most things I put my hands to, Maggie, but that I think can hide true awareness of what I really value. And just because I could achieve it, that doesn't mean I really care.
So what was going on internally with you in that first part of your journey? What were you feeling? How are you feeling?
Yeah. So I came to find that I felt like my identity was someone who does things well. And when I'm not doing things well, I felt like a failure as a person deep down. Again, it sounds philosophical, but it was a true realization. I remember an early discovery in college. I came home burned out from doing 100 different activities and clubs and leadership and this and that. And someone who's a few years older than me was graduating in a few weeks, and he was burned out, more burned out than I was. And he was trying to do everything well. And I remember realizing internally, I don't want that future. I don't want to sacrifice relationship and health and peace for what he achieved. And so internally, I think, Maggie, it was a discovery process of figuring out what I really cared about, what were really my principles. And I realized I wasn't pursuing them. But yet there was this tension, because if I wasn't doing things with excellence, I didn't realize it, but I was thinking of myself as a failure because my identity was rooted in achieving things and doing things well.
So did that have any kind of impact on how you thought the world it was seeing you? You know, what can you talk about that?
Yeah, I just in recent years was given language for that through the Enneagram, which has become so popular. And so I'm an Enneagram 3 for any Enneagramites out there, and Enneagram 3s often, it's so true, tend to anchor their sense of well-being in their understanding of others' perception of me. So I want to be worthwhile and admired and respected. And that then would fuel my sense of a strong identity. But that's not helpful or healthy or even in alignment with what I believe. But my wiring tends to lean to that. So yes, Maggie, that has been an area I can see in retrospect of challenge, of living authentically out of a real why, as opposed to a why that I just feel, even though it isn't in alignment with what I believe.
So what was the moment that you hit the wall? The moment that you realized, okay, this is not the right path. What do I need to do? The discovery.
I'm laughing because I think I'm about to tell you something I don't know that I've told anyone out of just the most intimate circle. And it's a little not embarrassing, but it's odd. I would say this was the first warning shot across the bow that then took, well, it's still unfolding to create alignment for me. And it was 2002. And I had a dream, like a legit, I'm sleeping dream. Actually, I was at my desk paying bills, and I fell asleep, while like doing that. And I woke up, and when I woke up, I had one of those real quick dreams you get when you just nod off. And in the dream, I'm hiking up a mountain with who I knew to be my closest community, my closest friends and family. And I was excited for the summit, but excited to be with this group of people. And it was time to set up camp. And in the dream, we're setting up camp, and people are just throwing their sleeping bag over by the bush or threw up this lousy tent. And I thought, no, you got to do this right. So I began to construct a tent out of bricks. Like I'm literally on the side of a mountain with a trowel making concrete wall. And I remember looking over at someone's lousy tent, and I thought to myself, if the wind comes or there's a storm, that's going to blow down. You guys you're lousy. Well, I'm building this amazing tent. I actually remember in the dream, like measuring and like getting it just right. I look over and everyone's gathered in the dream around a fire, and the bonfire's up, and they're laughing, and they're passing around food, and they're clinking glasses like in a movie, mugs. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm almost done. And I kept working. Next thing I know, the fire's died out, the food's gone, people are going into their lousy tents and going to bed to get a good night's sleep. And I realized, I even get the chills when I tell it to you, my tent was about a third of the way done, halfway done, and I realized I would be finishing it about the time that they would wake up. I would have missed all the conversation, all the fun, all the depth, and I'd be exhausted tomorrow for the next leg of the journey. And when I had that feeling in that dream, I had this deep inner knowing. This is a true story. I had this deep inner knowing that said it was never you weren't supposed to stay there. I don't remember the words, but it was this deep knowing, where you're setting up the tent isn't permanent. That's not even, it's not the point. You're putting all of your time and energy on that one spot, but it was about those people, and it was about the journey up. And so it blew me away, and I've been unpacking it since and trying to live that out since, Maggie. I just told you all that dream. Wow, there you go.
That's wonderful, because I've had similar dreams too, and they're very powerful because they are very relatable, and they're trying to tell you something about life, about, you know, who you are and the people around you and what you're doing. And so was there an epiphany moment for you in discovering your why? Your true why?
Mm-hmm. I don't know that there was, Maggie. I don't think I had an epiphany moment. I think it was the sum total of experiences. Yeah, no, there, you know, that would be, yeah, that's my true answer. It's been a sum total. There wasn't one big unveiling.
Was there one moment though that made you decide, okay, I've been going about my why the wrong way?
Well, that dream
was probably
that moment when I saw that upperclassman friend burned out on the front lawn of our house, realizing I didn't want that future. Those two stick in my mind as still offering fruit for me today. Yeah.
So what did you do after that? What was the plan?
Yep. I actually decided to not pursue medical school any further. I deepened engagement with the spiritual community there, where I was finding meaning and truth. Mm-hmm. And I ultimately ended up emphasizing relationship more than the mindset of relationship with people, more than the mindset of achievement at any cost. So
you were already in medical school?
Nope, I was an undergraduate. Yep. And that was going to be my plan, was to go to medical.
Imagine so many people out there, listeners, they've gotten to a path, and just because somebody told them or they felt like it was the right thing to do, and they go through it and they end up living their entire lives unfulfilled. You know, what is that like? Yeah. You don't want to have that kind of experience, because ultimately I believe our purpose is to discovering our why, but that brings the fulfillment, the reason why you're living. It gives you the fire, the will to wake up in the morning and be so excited about doing the things that you're supposed to be doing that day. Yes. And moving forward. So I think that's really important, and to really understanding that. And a lot of people don't know their why. Yeah. They really don't, or they think they know, but they really don't understand that. Yes. And I think that dream for you was really the telling moment to say, okay, no more medical school. It could have been, you know, a well-paying job, right? But it wasn't aligned with who you are as a person, as a spiritual being. And that's really certainly powerful. Did you have any conflicts along the way with the new discovery?
Yeah. So in high school, the tallest mountain I knew to climb was to become a doctor. And I built, as a backstory, I realized later, reasons why I wanted to do that. Uh-huh. And so I self-justified. Didn't know it at the time, felt authentic at the time, but that's immaturity. And so the tension was, as I began to discover a different path, it was, I can't quit. How do I let go of what I had committed to myself? Mm-hmm. And then there was the unknown, because it's such a known path. You take organic chemistry. You remember that at U of M, John? A lot of fun, organic chemistry. You do this, then you'd study for that test. It's a known path. and all of a sudden the path was totally unknown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
so that was a huge tension, as to all of a sudden the whiteboard was open. It was like, what do I do?
Right.
Mhm. So as a result of your journey, what is the greatest achievement you think you have as far as following your heart, following your why, understanding what that is?
I'm going to buy time to answer that. By John, you were about to say something?
Okay. Yeah. No, not at all. I loved that whole line of questioning, Maggie. It was beautiful. I just want to go back for a minute about the dream, because I think, and I'm going to make up a statistic right now, but 99 out of 100 people would probably just ignore that dream.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I think that when you have a dream like that, you have to take, reflection, pause, meditation time, quiet time. Many people who don't shower, I hear all the time. I mean, many people who don't meditate will say, I meditate in the shower, a longer shower, whatever it is. How would you advise someone to find and take the space to actually really let it kind of sift down, into your soul?
Mm-hmm.
So you can then make a decision and a next step.
Yeah.
To your why.
Yep. I do have a very simple next step for that. Very implementable. So anyone learning or listening, pick up a pen right now and write this down. This is a really easy next step. And then I'm going to explain what comes after it. But the very easy next step is to simply create a place somewhere in your life. It could be a notebook, like I have this right here, or it could be digital. Maybe you have a simple notes app in your iPhone, and have a category, and you can name it whatever you want. Mine is Kairos moments, which is a Greek word, doesn't matter. Point is, it's a non-neutral moment in life. Non-neutral. It isn't just blah. It catches my attention. It could be something really big, like a big anniversary in it. Wow, this is our 19th anniversary in our wedding that you brought up, John, earlier. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Or it could be something small. Why did I get so upset when my friend said that? Or why do I feel fear right now? Or why am I so excited about such and such? Or that dream. So that list becomes a place to record that observation of a non-neutral moment. I may not have any clue why that moment is catching my attention, giving me strong emotion or causing me to reflect. But the first step is to observe it. And if I can observe it, then I can go into a cycle. And there's actually there's a whole process for this, and you can find it on the internet. I'm not going to go into it right now, but you start by reflection. And then there's discussion with a trusted close friend. And it answers the question, what am I hearing? What am I perceiving? And from there, then it's like, well, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to respond to what I'm hearing? And so I'm going to make a plan, and then my friend will hold me accountable. So I think the first step is to record it. The second step is to reflect and discuss with a true compatriot, true brother or sister, and then together work through it. I think community is essential. So it's record, have community, and because if I do it by myself, I'll push it out of my brain. It sounds uncomfortable. But discussion with you, I'm more clear about this now having this conversation with you than I was 20 minutes ago. So how much more important to do that on brand new non-neutral moments?
Yeah.
Mhm. That's powerful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is.
Problem is, I didn't get a chance to think about my answer to your question, Maggie.
Yeah, what's your answer to Maggie's
Yes. What's your greatest achievement? What's the achievement as a result of understanding and knowing your why, your purpose in life?
Oh, I think I know what it is. However, the reason I struggled is I don't think I experience it as an achievement. I experience it as a gift.
Mm.
But I think there's a truth that part of that gift is a fruit resulting from choices made a long time ago. But it feels like a gift because I don't even, the power to make those choices felt like a gift. But here's what it is. Ultimately, it would be, I genuinely enjoy and love my wife and kids. Like, I feel like it's a platitude to say, oh, family's important to me, family first, all that. There are times when that's hard. but I genuinely enjoy and feel love for them. And my wiring was in danger of putting achievement ahead of that relationship.
Mhm.
I could have been one who pursued storming the castle, summiting that mountain, and having
Mhm.
missed the bonfire
Mhm.
all along the way. So
Well,
for me,
you're
it's
ab-
that.
you're absolutely right. Achievement and success mean different things to different people,
Yes.
and what you focus on is what you grow. And having a family is important. I grew up in an orphanage in Mexico and had 68 siblings, and I didn't have a sense of family. So when I grew up, I looked for that, and I had so many troubled relationships, bad. And once I figured out that what I wanted and what I didn't want, and I was loving myself enough to say no to the things, the patterns that I didn't want it to repeat, then family became so important, and it's one of my pillars of existence is having that. And now I have that with my husband, and it's super amazing. I've never had that before,
Yeah.
and that's why, that to me is success.
Yeah.
Is success, absolutely. And so, what has been the transformation for you? Like, I know that you're talking about your family. I know that you just started a company, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And so I know that your path, your direction, your why is connected to what you're doing with your company, with your entrepreneurship, because that ultimately feeds what you have going on with your family and everything else that's meaningful for you in your life.
That's right.
So, what has been the transformation? What are you doing now as a result of understanding this? That perhaps, because of what your why, what impact you're doing in the lives of people now with what you do.
Thank you. The 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 word alignment has been key for me in this journey of why.
Mhm.
Having there be alignment with the why and what I'm doing, and increasingly I became uncomfortable with the dissonance of working hard in a way or for something that wasn't in alignment with what I cared about most.
Mhm.
So the company my partner and I launched this year, we actually named it Motive. So
Love
it's
it.
Motive Wealth Advisors, and there's many layers to that parfait of why it's named Motive, but one of them was to ensure that we didn't lose sight of those motivations for the why of what we do every morning when we wake up. So to your point, we did launch this so that our daily life could be more in alignment with that why. And you're asking what is that, and many layers, but I'll start with one of the keys as a continuation from the point we were just talking about with family and relationship. Is one of our beliefs is that the richest form of wealth is relationship. The
Mhm.
true wealth is
Yes.
the quality and depth of our most important relationships. And that's not just an opinion. I mean, that's proven scientifically.
Mhm.
It's testified to spiritually. It's documented sociologically, and it has been my experience empirically that our happiness, our well-being, our health, probably the greatest single correlator for our overall well-being, as shown by a number of studies, is the depth and quality of our relationships. So
Mhm.
we wanted to inject that and saturate every part of our business with that fact.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's an initial answer. I got
Mhm.
10 more in my pocket here for you if you want to keep talking about them. But
Sure, yes. This is inspirational, yes.
yeah. Well, one of them was years ago. I had a conversation with a potential client, and they said, "Well, we don't want to be friends. This is a professional business relationship." And I just knew that is not how I wanted it to be. And that's not wrong to have a very, very professional. No, I
Mhm.
want to be vulnerable and known
Mhm.
with the clients I serve, and I want them to be vulnerable and allow me to know them and what they really care about and fear. And so we have that depth of relationship as opposed to being closed to the vest.
Mhm.
So that the work of Brene Brown has been so influential to me about
Mhm.
the kind of quality of relationship that can come from that vulnerability. So we want to we're very upfront. In fact, I was just on the phone before this our time together with someone who's referred to us, and I said, warning, you know, and I told them all about our emphasis on deep relationship, because I want to chase away anyone who doesn't want that, because it's not going to be good for them or us. So that relationship is a key one. And that's true with the clients we serve, but it's also true among the people with whom I work. So my partner and I, a text from him this week was, I keep pinching myself that this is real, that we get to do this together. And so we get to share our mutual whys with one another. And it's so great to have that pure alignment.
I love what you're talking about, Jim. You know, a question I have for you is, I think a lot of times companies want to do that, but they don't, because they're also so focused on hypergrowth and scaling and, you know, doing what's right. Right. A lot of times you can do 70% and that's above average. Right. And, you know, and so how do you align growth with, you know, and while still being able to spend time so you can stay in alignment? You know, I'm a big believer that when you're in alignment, you can take action and it becomes very fluid. When you get outside of your alignment, then you're in this adjustment phase, and you can't really take action when you're in that phase because you're not centered, you're not grounded. And so how do you know, say, well, I could make even more money if I just take away this piece and this piece and this piece, and then all of a sudden it's not in alignment with the main purpose. I think a lot of companies struggle with that and find themselves taking a little piece away until it's not what they initially kicked off. Maggie, do you see the same thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's part of really narrowing down who your ideal client avatar is.
Yeah.
Because if they're not willing to open up and be vulnerable, and you know, if you decide this is who my client avatar is and these are all the steps, when I have people like this come to me, you know, for coaching or consulting, and I see certain traits that don't align with my ideal client avatar, then I'm very straightforward and says, then you're not the right person for me.
Yes.
And it's the truth, you know, because you are more happy and excited and have so much fun and are so excited to wake up the next morning because you love what you do in the first place and you have a clear understanding of what that is. And I find it very powerful that you related your relationship with your wife and that value that you carry over to your client relationship, which is it's big, you know, and really that's an energy that can be felt. It's propagated, you know, and that's how you continue to attract more people like that.
Yes.
To grow your business, and not only just grow your business, but you're giving out so much value that in turn grows their way of life.
Yes. And that upward spiral you just referenced, John, I think you get this, I know as well, that when there's that alignment, when there's that energy, Maggie, growth becomes a byproduct, you know, but it takes a deep belief that that's how the system works, that we can put our emphasis on what we care about and believe in most, and that it'll work out, as opposed to getting tempted to think, well, this is how growth comes and I have to compromise that why. And so somewhere there needs to be a deep belief that it'll work out so that I can go full in with those and make that hard decision to say no to business. Like you were just talking about, Maggie. That's a form of faith, is what that is.
Yeah, and a faith and not a fear mindset, but an abundance mindset.
Yes.
And you can still be. I don't want to confuse with. You can still be a conscious capitalist, right? You can still be very conscious, still make a lot of money, and it's okay to make a lot of money, because when you make a lot of money, you can help more people. And so I think a lot of times when people have that thought process of that very, you know, I'm going to say spiritual, evolved why, they think, well, I can't make money. Well, yeah, you can, right? And I think sometimes you just need somebody to say, you're allowed to make a lot of money so you can help more people.
Yeah.
But the thing there that happens too is that if you get a client, let's say that you know in your gut feeling that they weren't exactly 100% the right person for you.
Correct. Yeah.
My experience is that you end up having more problems with that client.
I agree. Yeah, you have to get the clients that align with you.
Yeah, there's a comedy of errors that seems to occur anytime I make an exception. Yeah. John, you do a bunch of work with the small giants community. And I read that book, and heck, I think you interviewed the author.
I did.
Yeah, and you do work with their summit and everything. Yeah, so you could talk about it more than I. But I mean, I've read the book, and it applies so well. And I just bring that up for anyone listening, that it's a great framework that is focused on profit, but more than profit. It's about purpose beyond profit for businesses to set up their values in a meaningful way, not a baloney, here's our corporate values, but really what drives us. Fantastic work that Bo has done in putting that book together and those principles. And I reference that framework often.
Yeah, it's an amazing organization, smallgiants.org, just to give it a little bit of a plug. And the book is great, Small Giants, which can be found on Amazon. This show is not sponsored by them, we're just promoting. All right, good. So as we kind of come to an end, this was great, Jim. I mean, you shared so much, soul today. What's just going back to, I know you gave a lot of steps and things of that nature, but to the person who wants to take, this to a next level for themselves, right? Yeah. Finding their why, going deeper on their why.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that they can do after listening to this?
Yeah. I would say do the easiest possible step, because then that gets momentum. So this may not be the most impactful step, but it might be the easiest. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that at the beginning, that Venn diagram of concepts that can help eventually facilitate discovery of the purpose. One of those I mentioned was what I'm good at, my powers, as I called them. Strengths Finder. I'm not even sure it's still called that anymore. Gallup Strengths Finder, if you're quick on the Google. Low cost. It's one of those type of personality tests, but it narrows down. It'll rank the 34 human strengths and what you're best at. And their philosophy, their theory is that emphasize what you're best at rather than trying to shore up your weaknesses so that you might become average. Take what you're best at and really double down. I think clarity about that can serve as a filter for people on at least that one part of the diagram. If you've already done that, then do the Enneagram. The Enneagram, Google that, because then that helps identify some of my perceptions and assumptions that I'm living out of, and they're unexamined. And once I bring them into the light and can examine them, go, oh, wow, I've been using that thought process as a fuel, but it's not really authentically what I value. But I didn't realize it because I'm like a fish swimming in water. I didn't realize my assumptions. So I'd say the Strengths Finder and by Gallup, and then Enneagram, those two are self-discovery, and they're kind of fun and motivating to help start down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie,
what's any last questions for Jim?
No, I think this is great. I think you have a really good, I love the dream part because I can relate with you so much. I've had so many dreams, and I don't discount my dreams. They have meaning. Yeah. They are part of the subconscious of our living and being, and they're always trying to tell us something. And I think examining how you examine things really deep into what the meaning of those dreams are can reveal a lot about ourselves that were hidden, that we didn't know about, to make the new discoveries. And a lot of my challenges get solved through dreams. And I actually keep a notepad by my bedside. And when I have challenges, I ask questions to my subconscious mind, can you please help me with this? Yeah. And so that I don't wake up and cannot go back to sleep, I can write it immediately and then just go back. And I'm so joyful the next morning because I just solved the challenge.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea.
We're over time, but I took a class in college, Psych 501, on dreams. It was crazy. There was a bunch of weird people in there, but I was one of them. And the professor said, half your grades are going to be keeping a dream journal. And everyone says, I don't remember my dreams. He said, I've been doing this for 20 years. If you put a pencil and paper by your bed and tell yourself you'll remember, he said, you will. Trust me. I've been doing this forever. And I since then have seen studies on that, excerpts from studies, and it's true. It's a very simple process to say, you know what, my brain's processing stuff. I shouldn't ignore it. And so there's your next step, I guess, is to everyone put a notebook by your bed and write it down right away. Otherwise, you'll forget. Yeah. Good call, Maggie.
Yes. It's a good call. I'm just used to taking my dreams to my therapist and talking it through. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jim, this has been great. You're always full of great wisdom. I appreciate it. I just want to kind of highlight a couple of things as we close. You know, talking about slowing down to kind of find your why. You know, asking yourself some key questions to find your principles, your passion, just everything that's important for you. You know, understanding your own personal backstory, which I think is always really critical. The importance of slowing down, and really creating some place to kind of document these non-neutral moments. Being aware and increasing our awareness, our frequency of vibration to understand what's happening. Discuss it with, you know, somebody, your why. Understanding that you were talking about avatars and small giants, which is great, and strength finder and other things that can help you kind of get deeper and paying attention to your dreams. But I think in closing, and I'll let Maggie close after me, doing the easiest possible step, because that's what kind of gets momentum and compounds that momentum. So I appreciate you sharing a piece of your soul today on how you got to your why, because I think it'll have a ripple effect, not only to the people who are here, but the people who continually listen to this episode. So thank you so much. Congratulations on the growth of your business, Motive Wealth Advisors. I'll let Maggie close, and then you can tell people your ideal client and how to get a hold of you. Maggie, any thoughts?
Just thank you for nice meeting you, and thank you for being with us. And we've learned a lot from you, and we know that the listeners are going to take a lot of this stuff, and because it's so important. The one thing, the single thing that I would encourage any person to do, entrepreneur or not, is to rediscover your why, because it's the purpose for a living.
Yeah.
You know, it's what either gives you, if you don't have it, gives you suffering or gives you joy.
Yeah.
And as we know, fear and love cannot coexist at the same time in the body. So what do you choose?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so important. Jim,
Well said.
Yeah, well said. So well said. Everything was well said. This was like a mini masters. This was Psych 501, 502. Jim, tell everybody how to get a hold of you and who your ideal client, who your ideal avatars are.
Sure. Yep. MotiveWA.com. MotiveWA.com. We serve individuals and families who tend to have a 7 or 8 figure net worth, have complex problems. We coordinate the solutions for all of that relative to anything having to do with their finances. Concierge wealth management for people who are looking for that and deep relationship.
I love it. I love it.
Wonderful.
Jim, thanks. Always great, Jim. Maggie, always great to be with you. Thank you both. That was awesome.
Thank you both.
Thanks, everybody.